Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Football Show. This is episode 104. We're live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Ace Podcast Nation, also your home to many other great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So give us a follow on social media, subscribe to that YouTube channel. That's the most direct way to support us at the moment. And you can also find the audio versions at usual radio and podcast platforms. Just search Ace Podcast Nation. And of course, if you want to keep it purely football, then follow at A.C.E Footy Show on all the social media platforms. And then you just get the football stuff. But all the episodes go through Ace Podcast Nation. And just as we do wait for those various platforms of the chats to fill up, a big thank you to Black Diamond Sports as ever for all their support around the show and indeed the channel. You can check out their social media pages, links in the description, and of course their lovely, lovely website, which is also linked in the description and the closing credits. But today's sponsor is none other than Bespoke Financial, and Darren Ralston of Bespoke Financial currently giving away a free will with £140 with any new policy which is taken out. And I encourage you all to check them out, give them a call, see if they've got something for you in these crazy times that we are living in. I think things like cover and that are more vital than ever. And it's an amazing offer. And like I said before, we are very, very privileged to partner up with such a top-class brand. They are truly top of their field and they provide award-winning service. So check them out. And they've been looking after Mr. Campbell, of course. But we'll play a little video from them a bit later on in the show when we have a little break. But with no further ado, because the comments are flooding in already, I would like to introduce the goal collector, the fox in the box. He is still the king of the Millennium Stadium, the QPR dream killer, David Jones' favourite son, ex-Cardiff City, Middlesbrough striker, the speed demon, the goal machine, Mr. Andrew Campbell. How goes it, my friend?
That gets better with each week, doesn't it? It's just the intro just gets better and better. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. This is personal today. This. I'm really looking forward to this because I'm really excited to dig even deeper into our guest and just let everybody see what kind of what unbelievable person that I know. You know what I mean? Because our guest tonight is not just an excellent footballer, unbelievable what he does, but first and foremost he's a friend, and you know what I mean. I think with a friend you can have a little bit more fun as you go along as well.
Yeah, spot on, mate. And I'm just jealous. If I start crying halfway through the show, it's because I'm remembering how amazing I used to love my long hair, and it's bringing back some sore memories of having it. I
think what we could do, Si, if I moved where you are, it could be like before, during, and after, couldn't it? It's just like that's a bad week. That's a bad week. It's a bad week. It's a bad week, that, innit? It's a bad week.
Getting worse, getting better. But our guest tonight is he started his career with Middlesbrough, played at Preston North End, Crystal Palace, former Premier League player. He was manager at Airbus UK, TNS, Hartlepool and Bangor, and he is the current assistant managers at CONNAHS QUAY Nomads. It is Mr. Craig Harrison. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Hi, Si. Hi, Cam. You okay?
Yeah, excellent, man. Great to have you on. Great to have you on. You know what I mean? It's another one of those situations, Si, where I always get what I want in the end. You know what I mean? I just hound people that much that people cave in. It's great. It's great. You always get there in the end, don't you, Craig?
Yeah, I thought, it's been asking us long enough. I thought I'd maybe get on. It's an absolute pleasure. As we said, we've known each other for a long, long time, and we've become good friends. as well as ex-teammates. But it's been the friendship's just as good as anything.
Yeah, agree. It's like a different life, though, isn't it? That the things that we've been through on and off the pitch is just. I think that in itself tells a story, and I think that's what brings people close. That it's not. Yes, football brings people together, which is great. The things that we're going to talk about before football, before Craig and any of the business. It's football brings people together, and this is the good thing about this show, Si, isn't it? That we give a lot of joy to a lot of people and mix it up and bringing live guests who've had an unbelievable career like Craig has. It's great, really. I love it. Couldn't be any better. Who was that? Was that comment from Mark Sherwood there? Was that Mark?
Yeah.
Mark, it didn't take Mark long, did it?
No. Story about Craig, Mark's daughter Chloe had a really serious illness a couple of years back. So invited me and Craig to go for a walk from Whitby to Redcar. So I think it was 24-point-something miles. It was horrific, by the way. It was one of the worst things I've ever done in my life. It was so hard. It was unbelievable. The only few things what got me going and got me through the day was Craig falling over. That was one. And then me finishing about an hour and a half behind everyone else. It was horrible. It was horrible. We won't be doing it again.
To be fair, you always struggled pre-season, didn't you? To be fair,
I know, but that was this was walking.
Yeah, you always a sprinter. Not
one pace.
I didn't have much summer. Yeah, you could sprint. That was it.
Yeah, one pace, mate. Tell you.
Indeed. So I just want to address a couple of comments first and move on from it. Yes, I have had my haircut. Yes, I cut it myself. Yes, I butchered it. But there we go. I cut it in myself with no help. I blended it all in. Nice
no mirror
at the bottom. Not even a mirror. Just a pair of rusty scissors and some shaving foam. What more do you need? But so I don't need to talk about that anymore. And yes, I'm feeling a lot better, as you may seem. I don't feel like I'm dying so much as I did last week. But so everything will be back to normal this week. Shows, videos, and I've got some special stuff coming up as well. Some extra stuff coming up this week as well. But so I think we got so much to talk about. And there's so much I want to get stuck into about Craig, as well as like any other business and the stuff. But as always, mate, we will start with the Magnificent Seven. We haven't done one for must be like 6 weeks because we haven't obviously Christmas stuff.
John was the last one, wasn't it? John Curtis. Yeah,
John was
the
last week before Christmas or 2 weeks before Christmas, maybe. So
yeah.
So let's get stuck into some of these. Okay, Craig Harrison, the Magnificent Seven. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
Favorite TV show?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. Luther.
I like it. I like it. We haven't had that one.
It's another new one, yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
Angriest teammate?
Oh, I'm trying to think. Angriest teammate.
With an example, if possible.
Oh, goodness me. I'm not too sure about that. I might have to pass and come back to that one, sorry.
Right, so the next one's nice and easy. It's just as easy. Laziest teammate?
Laziest teammate. Oh. He's probably not going to like it for this, but Neil Ruddock.
Bang on, though.
And then we will come back to the angriest teammate in just a second.
It's probably the same one now.
Go through the last
it is,
yeah. Playing or managing?
I think surprisingly managing.
Okay.
Interesting that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I will dig a little bit deeper, but yeah.
Scoring a goal or keeping a clean sheet?
Keeping a clean sheet.
No, I'm not having it. Even John Curtis said scoring a goal. Nah, he never scored.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Are you talking about as a player? Are you talking about as a manager coach?
Player, I suppose.
As a player. Clean sheet as a player, scoring a goal as a manager.
Yeah, interesting that. It's funny that, Craig, because we had Graham Jones on, obviously current assistant manager at Bournemouth under Jason Tyndall, and his philosophy on defending was just it's black and white. It's all about defending. You know what I mean? His job and remit at that club was to just be. His defenders must hate him because he must be so strict on it all the time. It's just great philosophies. I love it. I love listening to different people. It's great. Sorry, Zach.
It's all right, mate. I'm trying to work out which question I asked last. Scoring a goal, clean sheet. Greatest Englishman who has ever lived. Doesn't have to be football related.
Great question.
I'm gonna stay with the football in a boyhood hero of mine, Paul Gascoigne. So
legend.
I'm gonna stick with that because I was very fortunate to grow up watching him and then be a teammate. Yeah.
Shout. And angriest teammate with an example.
Neil Ruddock for slagging him off.
Yeah, it's I've had a few angry teammates. To be fair, I think it was a different era, wasn't it, when we played Cam? It was a lot more angry people in them days. I think probably from my early days, I'm not gonna swerve it, but from my early days as a manager, stroke coach, possibly I'll point the finger at myself, because I was an angry man coming transitional from an actual player into a coach, into a manager. It was a very frustrating time for me, certainly when I first got involved with it, moving from a full-time player to a part-time coach. I just couldn't quite grasp it. So, the first club I was with, I had fantastic memories with Airbus, but most of them lads who played for me there probably would have said, Craig, it's got to be you without a shadow of a doubt.
Like it.
So, just to sort of add to that question then, since you have become a manager, has there been any players perhaps who've been particularly angry and you've had to rein them in a little bit?
Like I said, none really stand out massively.
Yeah.
Sorry to disappoint you in that but none really stand out massively. There's not an awful lot. I think, like you said, certainly as time's gone on, it has to, it's had to, things have had to calm down, and football's a lot different to 15 years ago where me and Andy played.
So when you said there, Craig, then you said about you being angry about that transition. I know we're going to talk about you more in depth later on, but I'm just going to pick up on it that. So when did the mellowness and when did you mellow as a coach and a manager? Is there a time that you can put your finger on it, or did it just happen over time, or did you just relax a little bit more? What was it?
I think it was probably 2 or 3 years into me reign at TNS. I was very, very lucky. Obviously, we had a very strong team, and we won a lot more than what we got beaten. So I think it was just one of them situations. And also as well, it was something that one of my first contact times, my coaching journey.
Has he gone? I can't hear him. Has he gone off?
Yeah, Craig, your sound's gone off, mate.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my first contact times as a coach early on in my coaching career on a FAW course. I think one of the big things I had to probably, or one of my mentors recognised, was that I was just too angry. As a coach and as a manager, I was just losing me mind with any little thing, and it was just sort of almost becoming almost oblivious to everybody. Everything I'd done, it was just with anger and which I think if you do for too long, you only do a certain amount of time, and then people stop listening to you. So it was something that was certainly on my to-do list to progress my coaching career, my philosophy as a manager and a person. So I think it was there was obviously times, I think TNS there was times early on, but it sort of mellowed there. But there was obviously on occasions at Hartlepool, when things weren't going particularly well, you tend to revert back to type, don't you? And if you're an angry type of person, it's hard to control that 100%. And those times when I was under quite a bit of pressure, and there's times when things were happening behind the scenes that were just getting a bit not on top of us, but I was bubbling away inside, and there was the odd time when I had to release a little bit of steam.
I think that's an excellent start side for me, because I think it gives us a real good opportunity to dig a little bit deeper. Some of the things that Craig just spoke about there were from the heart, fantastic, and I think it gives us some scope to dig in a little bit deeper very shortly. But I think there's only one place to start, and unfortunately, the people who watch this show might have heard the news already, but not the nicest news coming out of Cardiff City. Yeah,
you've got the statement in front of me. So Cardiff City have issued a statement in the last half hour, mate, is it?
I heard it just before I came on with us, so yeah, probably just after about 7:10, so probably about half an hour ago.
So I'll read the first part and then paraphrase the rest. Basically says, we're saddened to inform supporters that Sol Bamba has been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. With the close support of the club's medical team, Sol has immediately started a course of chemotherapy treatment. Obviously, he's universally admired by teammates, staff and supporters in the Welsh capital. And obviously, I think around football as well, he's obviously a highly respected player for all he's done over his career, as well as the way he goes about his business, not just from a Cardiff point of view, but obviously his time at other clubs as well. And just before we sort of talk about it, I would like to take this opportunity to wish him well and his family well from everyone, from myself, from everyone at Ace Podcast Nation, the Andy Campbell Show. Obviously, some things are bigger than football, and this is certainly one of those cases. And
Yeah, listen, when I heard it and the news was coming through, I stopped a little bit, and because when they start with that kind of news, you really fear the worst, and you know what I mean. This hopefully isn't as bad as what it sounds, you know what I mean, and Sol can make a full recovery, and hopefully everything can work itself out. You know, 2021's been a shocking start of the year already. You know what I mean. We talked about 2020 being a bad year for Cardiff City, with obviously Chris Barker and Peter Whittingham, and you know what I mean. And I look at the bigger picture, Misa. I look at, for example, the club doctor at Cardiff City, Len Noakes. You know what I mean. Len looked after me at Cardiff, and Len's had a really tough couple of years. He's looked after Stephen McPhail when Stephen had cancer. He's now looking after Sol, who's poorly. He's lost his daughter as well through illness. You know what I mean. So listen, that football club himself, and that's forgetting Emiliano Sala as well. You know that the staff and the football club's been through so much in a short space of time. It's absolutely frightening. So it's, you know what I mean. From, like you say, I would just repeat and echo that. I hope Sol gets better very quickly, makes a full recovery, and just keeps that smile on his face. Because you know what, he's one of the most nicest men I've ever met in football. I was lucky enough to give his goal of the season award at the Player of the Year due 2 years ago. He's just got a beautiful smile. He's just a lovely man, and I can't say anything better about that. He's just fantastic.
Yeah, a few people in the comments said like what a phenomenal person he is, and the real gentleman. The fact that he's gone straight into chemotherapy with after the announcement, I was thinking initially, oh, that must mean that it's obviously a serious situation, but it must be quite needed to be dealt with urgently. But that's not necessarily the case, because you don't know when they found out and things like that. Like, just because they announced it today, they could have had a bit more prior notice and stuff in terms of sorting out treatment and stuff. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's being urgently arranged, which obviously would be very worrying on top of it. But overall, it's dreadful news, and hopefully that he can, hopefully they've caught it early, and hopefully that they can, he can battle through it. He's a warrior, mate, on the pitch, and
yeah, he is. Yeah,
he's not going to give up without a fight, I wouldn't imagine. But no. Like you say, mate, Cardiff City as a football club have been off the pitch, have been through the absolute ringer over the last few years. It's unbelievable. Some of the things which have happened to people linked to the club and to the club itself is it's a strange one. It's not the best start to 2021, mate. It's almost like 2021 is straight away trying to outdo 2020, which is worrying, mate. But there we go. Craig, have you ever come across Sol Bamba, mate?
Not at all. No, I haven't. But obviously, from my point of view as well, you send good luck messages, and hopefully he gets on the road to recovery as quick as what he can. Because, like you said, I think one of the positives, if there is a positive out of it, obviously, you get the best treatment with Cardiff Football Club. That obviously they've got good experience and good people in the medical department. So he will be. He might have been, if you could be fortunate, the job he's in the medical departments at big football clubs, hopefully they found it quick enough and he can get the treatment he needs to make a full recovery.
Yeah, totally agree.
The other thing I was just going to quickly say, and I've literally just thought about this as Craig was talking, so it's off the cuff. I'm going to set up a post after the show, probably now, on the Facebook page of Ace Podcast Nation, where people can write messages for Sol Bamba, and then I will pass that on to the club, and they can hopefully get it to him and his family, and at least he can get like a gist of people supporting him, and hopefully that little bit of give him a bit of a lift in what's going to be a very difficult and tough time for him and his family, of course, as well.
Yeah, lovely. Listen, I think he's in good hands. He's in the best place. You know what I mean? I know that everything's different, but Cardiff City have had the experience. You know what I mean? Indirectly. So you know what I mean? It'll. I just echo what Craig said. It's happening too often to everybody, to people, to family, to friends, to people we know, and footballers aren't any different, unfortunately. So it's just such a shame. Great man.
Indeed. I'll put that post up after the show, and if people can spread the words to obviously all their Cardiff friends and fans, fans and friends and stuff, we can obviously get as many as we can in that, and then we can pass it on to the.
Yeah, great idea.
I'll probably get directly to the chairman. Is probably the most direct way to get it to him, I think. So I'll do that. Moving on. Unfortunately, it's not as grave, but it's not much more positive. The first bit of any other business, mate. But I'm going to get this out of my system so I can relax, because the first time this gentleman did what he did, I was quite I thought I was reserved. I just said he was ridiculous. Said he was, just ridiculous. He's done it again, and then it's the club as well. Seem to be having a bit of a free for all in it. So for those who don't know, certain Mr. Mendy, who plays for Man City, yet again has broken the bubble and the lockdown rules. And it's not just the bubble; it's the lockdown rules that apply to everyone. It's very frustrating. It angers me because, look, lockdown is difficult for everyone. I get that. It's very difficult. We've all been. I've barely left my house in the last year because we've been shielding and stuff, and it's hard. But I tell you what, I haven't got a swimming pool and a gym and a 5-a-side football pitch in my house. I hazard a guess that Mr. Mendy has got at least some of that stuff. Now, I'm not saying that just because you've got all that stuff, that doesn't make it difficult and that doesn't make it frustrating, and you can be isolated, you could be lonely, whatever it may be. I get all that, of course. I'm not saying that just because you've got money, you can't have those things. But, it does make it a bit easier. So if everyone else is trying to do it, he's got to suck it up and get on with it. And
it's frustrating, Si. It's frustrating because you see the mistakes that some of the young Chelsea players made, having birthday parties. Some of the young England players made, going out partying, having meals, crossing bubbles, going into different areas. You know what I mean? For me, footballers need to realise how lucky they are. You know what I mean? That we've got countries who didn't finish their seasons last season. You know what I mean? The Premier League was so lucky, and the English EFL was so lucky that they finished the seasons in some kind of remit. But they just need to realise how lucky they are, because they're role models as well. So if they're breaking the rules, then surely people are going to follow suit, and that's my concern. That's my worry. And I just think, understand your position in life. Understand that you are a role model. Understand that people will copy you. People will just replicate your behaviour, and hopefully, the penny drops sooner rather than later. Because if his actions cause someone to get COVID or get poorly or worse, you know what I mean, then he's got to live with that, you know what I mean? So for me, you've got to stop it at source, and for me, the only person who can stop it is himself, you know what I mean? So forget the party animal. We've got time when all this goes away, then go and party in whatever for 6 weeks or 8 weeks once your summer goes. But for me, understand there's rules in place for a reason. And that's it, I think. And
I texted you last night, didn't I? And I said he's paid no attention. So, Craig, basically what I said to Andy is he's paid no attention to Man City, their kind of implications and their warnings the first time he's done it. So, who is he going to listen to? Does it need to be the FA stepping in and saying, hang on a minute, we're going through all these different measures to make sure football can be played, and you're doing ridiculous things, which is putting all that at risk? Is it the FA? Is it a visit from the police? I don't know what's going to kind of make him listen. As a manager and assistant manager, what would your view be, and how would you deal with someone who just won't listen to the lockdown rules?
Well, I think first and foremost, as you said, it's been tough for everybody. Everyone's not in a great position, with, mental health and people losing jobs and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, I've only managed to see my parents once in 10 months. I know I live 150, 175 miles away, but it's still, I'm not going traveling the other end of the country to go and see my parents because of the situation. My little girl who's 8, is stuck to the rules. She's not give her any of her nannies or granddads a hug in 10, 11 months, which is hard to try and explain to a little child. So, for this to, don't get me wrong, we all make mistakes. It happens, but to happen a second time when there's been so much high profile about it, it's pretty ridiculous. And, and just as much, I just wonder what the Pep Guardiola thinks of this, because obviously he's directly going against whatever he's supporting as well. Because for the manager of the football club, we all know that we've all seen that Pep's quite a disciplinarian. And even down to stories where I've heard that players are late on the training, 5 minutes on the training pitch, and he just sent them straight back off and told them to come back tomorrow. For something to being late for a training session. So I can imagine he's not too happy about this. And like you said, the bigger picture is we're fortunate that the Premier League is on and it's playing and we're watching it, and it's obviously helping a lot of people mentally to do something and take interest in something. And we're so fortunate. We're all so fortunate to be to see football. And and fortunately for ourselves, the Welsh football, the domestic football's been on right until 2-3 weeks ago. So from that point of view, and we've just got to do everything we can to get out of this mess we're in. And it doesn't help, does it, when people like that do things like that?
Yeah. Very quickly then, before we just move on to Craig, a couple of comments people saying about the Celtic thing. So obviously Celtic went out to Dubai and train. Why they need to do that is beyond me. But they've gone out to Dubai to train, and what do you think happens? They come back with COVID cases. Is there a desperate need to go to Dubai for this trip, other than it being like a bit of a treat because of the year that we just had? Like, in your opinion, like for me, that's the only reason they've gone. Really, is
not when they know they're what they've got to come back to. Not got to come back to and for. You know what I mean? They're coming back with this in rife. So for me, they've took a big risk. They haven't listened to the advice. You know what I mean? Even the lady who's running Scotland. You know what I mean? For me, they didn't listen to her advice and listen to her governance. You know what I mean? For me, they've just gone over the top of and did what they think's best. It's not for me. I don't agree with it.
Yeah, it's just a bit ridiculous. I gotta say, it doesn't make sense to me. And if if that one case turns to 5-6, Scotland could be in trouble in terms of the game, because they've already had to call off games, haven't they, earlier in the season? So I mean, I'm sure the SPL people would not be happy if they have to call off another round of games because Celtic or other clubs have gone and got 5-6 cases of COVID on a training trip to Dubai. It's ridiculous, but I think Mr. Mendy and Celtic and a couple of other places, the FA have got to give him a massive fine. And the problem is, Man City and Mendy, a fine makes no difference whatsoever.
Yeah, I totally agree. Unfortunately, it is.
I think, unfortunately, the world we live in, it's a classic example of being, separated from the real world, isn't it? Football has had a lot of bad press, isn't it? And it seems to be, certainly, I'm not going to go back about when me and Cam played, but, it just seems to pull away further and further and further from average Joe and Joe Public, if you like. And I think this is just a classic example of that.
Well, the thing is, though, Craig, when you made a mistake, well, I made plenty, to be fair, but when you make mistakes at clubs and you get absolutely roasted for it, you don't make them again. You know what I mean? You certainly don't, because you respect the people who tell you. You're scared to make that mistake again because, you know what I mean? And bear in mind, by the way, there was no social media. There was no proper media. There was those kind of stories wouldn't get out. So to be scared of making that mistake, well, too right, mate, yeah. Too right. So to be scared of those kind of stories made you respect the kind of people and yourself, you know what I mean? So I think obviously sometimes you forget about yourself, and I think listen, you know what I mean? You said it there. Everyone's young, everyone's silly at times, and we make mistakes, and life's for making mistakes, but it's how you react from them. Don't make the same mistakes again for me.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Okay, just before we move into our questions, mate, we have had a couple of really good questions already for Craig, so I'm going to just fly to a couple of them, and then we'll move to our stuff. Rhys David Evans said, what are some of the difficulties managing in the Welsh leagues that us fans of Premier League and Football League clubs can't appreciate?
Well, I think the biggest one, is obviously facilities, crowds and budgets. Obviously I've been very fortunate to be manager of and assistant manager of the top two teams in domestic Welsh football, winning 6 or 7 titles and I think 18 trophies altogether with TNS as manager, and then being involved as assistant manager on massive European nights with CONNAHS QUAY Nomads, and knocking Kilmarnock out Europa League, beating them 2-0 away from home, and then winning the league. The first time a team outside of TNS has won the league in 7-8 years with CONNAHS QUAY Nomads. I've been fortunate to work at the top level, but on the first run of the ladder, I was with Airbus UK, and they were a part-time club. You've got to count your pennies, you've got to keep your budget tight, and you've got to make the most of everything you can, down to facilities and and training times, and players got families, got jobs. I think that was the biggest thing, my transition from being a full-time footballer and then into a part-time manager. Football had always been first for me. I hadn't had a family at the time, so football was always first. And then you get players that A, have got a family that's more important than football, and B, have got other careers that's more important than football. And that was a big change in mentality, which it took me probably 18 months to maybe 3 years to really grasp.
So how important is it then understanding what players want then, Craig? So bringing a player in, attracting the right players, not overpaying for players, because obviously you're then dealing with someone else's money, the budget's too tight, you're counting the pennies. So how important is it then recruitment wise at clubs who don't have as much money? Because you see the best teams in the world with the biggest budgets can go and splash out big wages, big sign-on fees, big transfer fees, but what's not always the case at some clubs.
No, I don't think it is, but I do believe in recruitment's the key at all levels, because, if you go on a bad run as a manager at a top club, the first thing that gets scrutinised is your recruitment, the first thing. So, and I think that's right the way. Obviously, it's emphasised more at smaller clubs because you can't afford to make 2 or 3 mistakes through a season, where, as you say, the bigger clubs, can have 2 top players for each position, not really have to worry about keeping everyone happy, about budgets, about making you be in on budget every single week. To be going all the way back to me Airbus days, it used to be, I used to basically pick the team first, and then the substitutes were, sometimes I could only have 2, and maybe a third one was one of my coaches, or it was make it up in another week, because I had a set amount, and if I went over that, literally, the chairman at the time was, well, it'll come out of your wages. So, which was for me, it was a great learning curve, because moving on to bigger clubs, in full-time clubs, then, I had that mentality right the way through.
That's and that's the worrying times also, especially, and I look at the times, and we're going back a few years there now. I think clubs are going to have to look at things like that now. Clubs aren't going to run with big squads now because of what's going on with budgets and income, and then realising that they can probably run with smaller squads, and understand that, yes, we can get a young lad in, or yes, we can run with 3, 4, 5 subs instead of 7, 8, 9, which we've got currently on the bench. Football's going to evolve and football's going to change. There's going to be a lot of players now going to be unemployed or out of contract, out not having a club because of this kind of thing, and players who've been waiting around for the January window and waiting around for this contract to land on their lap. It's not going to happen anymore like it did before, and that's the worrying thing for me, being a player. I miss playing. I miss going back. I miss the banter. I think I miss that more than anything. But I wouldn't like to be chasing contracts now at this time of the year. It'd be a worrying time for players, certainly.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree 100%. I think that's one thing that I say quite often. I was obviously unfortunate to finish my career early, but one of the big things that I didn't have to do is come to the end of career and chase a year here, a year there, and get to 35 or 36 or wherever, and go year to year. Even could be moving right the way across the country, could be going anywhere and chasing your last, year's contract. I was, as much as I was 24 when the injury happened and 26 when I retired, I was very, very fortunate that, I'd find it being, I was never ever told I was never good enough, which is always it's a nice, but it's a bit of a false place to be.
It's like that magic number, isn't it? That magic number 35. Everyone said that when we were 16, having meetings with the PFA, coming in the door and telling us this, telling us that, and saying you play at football till you're 35. It was like that was a number that you aim for, and it's a myth, isn't it? You see players who go past that. You see players who don't want to go to that much because of bodies. Kevin Ellison yesterday was sub at Newport County. They played Brighton in the FA Cup. He was 41 years old and still going strong. He got rested yesterday for the FA Cup game. he was devastated, gutted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for me, I just think, do you know what I mean? The club's looking after him, but he wants to play every single minute of every single game. He's played more 35 to 41 than he did 16 to 25. It's scary how people come with age and get better and better.
But I think you probably only appreciate it, don't you, as you get older. You know, I know Kev reasonably well. You know, he's a big advocate of mental health, and I have some contact with him on social media. And you know, we've come across each other a few times on the coaching side. And you know, he was playing in a game when I was manager at Hartlepool. We played Morecambe in the FA Cup. You know, and I've had a lot of contact with Kevin. You know, and I think you get to that age, don't you, and you just think, you don't want to end. You don't want to end, and it's the worst thing, you know. And I would always say to any player, you know, play as long as what you physically can.
The world's oldest player who currently plays is 53, I believe it was, a Japanese player, and he's just signed a new contract to carry on playing, which I just think is incredible. To be still playing at that age is phenomenal.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Do you know what? Like, his recovery must be horrific. You know what I mean? Recovery after the game. You know what I mean? I play over 40s and I'm still struggling on a Thursday, so his recovery must last about a month.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's a genetically Superman, isn't he?
Yeah, and to be fair, you see people, don't you? You know what I mean? Craig mentioned pre-season about me struggling personally, but yeah, you see people who find things easy. You know what I mean? A good friend of ours, Mark Somerville. You know, I remember doing pre-season. Summers could do a pre-season off 6-7 pints and do the bleep test off. Just go say I'm going to get a level 13 today, and then get a level 13 and drop out. And I was thinking, as long as I make 11, you know, and that was a big struggle, you know. And I just think sometimes people's bodies are just made differently, and I won't call them superhuman, but it's just, and that makes everybody individual. You know, people had pace, people were strong, people were big, people were quick. It's just, it makes people different and it makes football interesting, I guess. But it was just, it was very, very different.
Do you reckon, Ange, you could still play now, like training every day and running those miles? Oof.
No. Do you know what? I think the training I could probably get through, but then if I ever had to be playing on a Saturday, I don't think I'd be ready physically. And you see managers, don't you? You know what I mean? I don't know what Craig's philosophy is, but Bielsa's philosophy is if you're not 100% fit, you can't play on a Saturday. I don't think I ever woke up on a Saturday morning 100% ready to play a game. I was 95, 90, 99. You know what I mean? You got headache, bit stiff, or my shoulders sore, or didn't sleep very well. There's something, but sometimes you play because you want to play. You play because you're scared of not playing again the following week or something. Or you know what I mean? It's a strange one.
Yeah, I think that, you know, it always happens, doesn't it? You know, I think it's a younger generation thing, and it's probably been something that the foreign players and foreign managers brought in, didn't they? About if you're not fully fit, whereas it's coming up in the old British style, it'd be, you know, you wouldn't tell anybody, like Andy was saying, you know, as a professional footballer, training every day and playing the weekend, you very rarely would be 100% fit, like you said, a niggle, a stiff, a blister, or this or that or the other, you know, and now, you know, you try to cajole these younger players just to, you know, that's part of being a professional player.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally agree.
We'll come back to the questions in the chat, guys. You can keep sending them, and we'll come back to them throughout the show. But just before we move on, shout out to Gaz, who sent a super chat on YouTube. He says, a little contribution, not much, but I like to try and help. Best footy show out there and deserves national TV or radio slot, in my opinion.
Cheers, Gaz. Cheers, guys.
Appreciate that massively.
Yeah. When we're talking about, though, we're talking about we've just had a comment in our lovely lady friend Donna, who I know runs marathons per day. I think she ran something like 80 miles yesterday, and always comments. I went on a fitness spurge. You know what I mean? I was doing 5Ks, I was doing a few 10Ks, and I was really proud of myself. And then Donna would post one of her runs over at lunchtime and do 20 miles at dinner time, and I would just be like, oh, you know what I mean? But people are just made for that kind of stuff, and you know what I mean? Good luck to them, because you know what I mean, for mental health, for your own health and fitness, for your, you know what I mean, for your own well-being. You know what I mean? It's so important to do what works for you, and good luck to them. Really, really, really inspires people. You know, it inspired me seeing people's scores over lockdown to get out and do some miles with the legs. It was great. Really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, 100%.
Really enjoyed it.
What I'd like to do, Craig, with the guests is when we kind of get into you now, is I'd like to go right back to the beginning, really, and ask you, what's your first football memory where, whether it was playing or watching or just something which you remember, like the first time you fell in love with the game?
I think it was probably going all the way back to probably around about, I was 7 or 8 of my first memory and going to watch Newcastle United. And the players they had then, for some reason I was very, very drawn to Chris Waddle. He's been a big favourite of mine. I just like the way he played. In that team you had Waddle, Beardsley, Gascoigne was coming through as a young player, Kevin Keegan just finished, and it was one of them teams that, at the time, I think they might even be in the second division at the time. I couldn't really tell you. My dad's he's a big Newcastle supporter. I'm not a Newcastle supporter, as I stand now, but that was probably my biggest memory of actually watching football. And then 9-year-old, I stopped watching it because I started playing at under-12s team, and that was my first memory of not. I had to lie every week on the team sheet because you were supposed to be at least 11 or 10 to be playing, and I was very fortunate. My dad was an uncle with a manager, so I could get away with it. But I just, from then on in, it was just had a ferocious appetite for football. It was some of the biggest and best memories is my dad taking me to the park, playing football with us, the things, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying it, we used to go and play with a full-size heavy or case ball and mate a multiplex, and he used to make me kick it, head it, block shots, tackle, and all them things were just something that come into my later life because fortunately when I got older and I played, I could actually strike a decent ball and I could kick it quite a long way, and that must have been coming from my dad at 8-9 year old, and really putting pressure on us to be, there's another memory. It wasn't one of my first ones, and I'm sure me mum and dad won't mind me sort of recalling it, but I used to play for the school on a Saturday morning. Then I used to play for a boys' club on the Saturday afternoon, then a Sunday. But I remember one day I would just come in from playing the school. I'd sit in a half an hour in a bath to soak my muscles to get ready to go and play in the afternoon. And I remember my mum having a full-blown argument because my dad was getting in the bathroom to tell me how bad I'd played in the game in the morning. And it was like literally mum and dad were, pulling strips of each other. My mum was leave him alone. My dad was, no, he needs to know. He didn't do this, he didn't do that, he didn't do the other. And, and that was sort of don't get me wrong, when I did do things well, he was the first one to tell us. But it was the way I was brought up, and I wouldn't change it for the world because it made me certainly the competitor I was and still am.
So I comment previously what you just put on the show. That's one of mine and Craig's ex-teammate, Steve Baker. Ireland international. He's the heaviest man in football, by the way. But he looks like he hasn't got any hair there. But he's
talking about angry men. Cam, talk about angry men. He could be right up there, by the way. He could be right up there.
He's an angry man. He was an angry man. On and off the pitch, he was angry. He was very angry, by the way. Very angry. He more mellowed when he had a drink, which we won't go on about. But no, Craig. Obviously, family. It sounds like family played a huge part in your football career at a young age to push you, to inspire you, to help you. I mean, we speak about grassroots football, and we speak about parents going the extra mile. That obviously you were born and bred and brought up in Gateshead, and then having to sign, well, not having to, but signing for Middlesbrough. It's a big commitment, not just for yourself, but for your parents. That if it wasn't for parents, it wasn't for people to bring you. Those things aren't as possible as what from people who don't know.
No, not at all. It was a huge commitment. Right away from being a young player, going to, as soon as you're involved with organised football, there's a lot of travelling, isn't there? And it's hugely. I was very, very fortunate that my dad loved football as well. And I remember going to watch my dad playing later on when he was, in his career, playing on a Sunday morning. He was a goalkeeper, and I remember going to watch him and just loving listening. Obviously, some things that were said on the side weren't particularly great, and some things that happened on the pitch weren't great. But I'm still in touch with 3 or 4 of boyhood friends that their dads played in the same team. We ended up going to school with and were friends and still are friends now. I think football plays an amazing part. And it was something that my dad said to me. obviously becoming a professional footballer is elite, and there's such a small amount, and then even going on to play Premier League football, it's in the 0 point whatever it is percentage out of the population of lads and players that want to go on and play that. But it's such a social sport. You're so lucky that a team sport where you learn so much, and if you don't go on to be a professional, you don't go on to be a Premier League player, the things that you learn in between that is invaluable. Life skills and everything in between. It's such a huge thing.
Bang on. And you know what? Which is a pleasing thing now, because Craig, you can't see the comments, you can't see the people who are commenting in here. And I'm going through some of them, and Penny's just put a comment in. I haven't spoken to Penny for a long time. Obviously, Penny was one of our ex-teammates as well at Middlesbrough, coming to the youth team. But Craig just said there, Si, about the memories that you make. That we're on about happy times as a footballer. People mention playing in the Premier League, playing for your country, playing 34, 35. Yeah, my happiest time is when I walked through those gates at Ayresome Park as a 16-year-old YTS. Cleaning boots, cleaning jobs, doing the things what everybody didn't want to do. But you know what? The camaraderie we had, the fun we had, everyone got on, everyone had a laugh. It was so competitive. It was just an amazing time, Craig, wasn't it? And I look at teams now. We had Robbie Stockdale on, and when Robbie went to Grimsby, Robbie made his YTSs do the jobs and things and get real mucked in and stuff. But a lot of clubs don't choose to do it, and you know what I mean. You'll vouch for me and say that was a real learning curve for us, but it was a good time as well.
I think without a doubt, I was very, very fortunate, like I was saying, to play in the Premier League and to be a footballer for a length of time and so on and so forth. But if anyone said to me, sit down and really think about, your best in most cherished times, without a shadow of a doubt, with my 2 years as a YTS, without a doubt, it was brilliant. It was every day was you'd have to work hard, but you'd have to muck in and do this and do that. Clean the buses, clean the stadium, get the kit sorted, the boots sorted. Torsby Road, putting the goals out in the freezing cold. Before the first team come and trained, and then waiting about till afterwards. And, the stories and the things, there's one that I'd never forget. We talked about Steve Baker. I think he was one of them. I think it was him and Anne Cosgrove got locked in the container with for hours. Somebody, I don't know who it was now, locked them in the container at Torsby Road for hours. And literally, they took the clothes off, they were that hot, and they had to put it over the face like a face mask because of the dust. It was, something like that happened every week. Something like that happened every week at the old Ayresome Park, and it was, without a shadow of a doubt, yes, don't get me wrong, I really cherish it and very privileged to being a professional footballer and played in the Premier League. But the 2 years as a YTS, without a doubt, was the best 2 years of my football life.
When we're talking about now, sorry, Si.
I was just going to ask, the Welsh League clubs, do they have the academy players doing like chores and stuff like that?
No, I don't really know if anyone does these days. It's one of them things that been to quite a few big clubs still, and then obviously championship clubs and downwards when we've been playing pre-season friendlies and stuff, and I really don't know. I think
the wording's changed, hasn't it? Because they're apprentices now, aren't they? So it's more education than it is youth training scheme. So I don't know. The expectation was more jobs than it was anything else. Which
it was.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And then the times like listen, you know what I mean. The things like the guys. Obviously, Craig's on the show, and the guys who are in the thing. If you didn't, you know what I mean. At Christmas time, you know what I mean. We used to sing in the changing rooms for the first team, and the worst person who'd sing the song would have to get naked and run around Ayresome Park with all the staff watching. With you know what I mean. It was horrific. It was horrific all the time. And it's just, but that's what it's.
You wouldn't be allowed to do that now, would you?
Oh, mate, it wouldn't be allowed to do anything like that now, you know. And it brought so many people together, and it brought groups together. It was absolutely amazing, you know. And I think, I mean, Craig mentioned there about doing certain jobs at Ayresome Park, being at YTS, and what comes with that is the staff, Craig, who played a big role in your upbringing, your career at a younger level. Obviously, Ron Bourne was a major part of that. You know what I mean? I know Ron's watching tonight. Ron's son's a big follower, and I tell Ron every time I've got one of his boys on. He doesn't watch me every week, which I can't believe, but you know. But obviously with with obviously the sad news over Christmas that Keith Noble lost his life as well. So I know personally, you know what I mean, I grew up with Keith and Creeth.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, there's other people who played a big role in your career for Middlesbrough.
Yeah, there is without a doubt. You know, Peter Kirkley was one of them as well. You know, Peter's quite a famous scout in the Wallsend Boys Club scene. You know, further north towards Newcastle. You know, I'm sure it was Peter who had a lot to do with Paul Gascoigne going to Newcastle as well, and so Peter did. Obviously, Ron and Keith. You know, it's so sad. You know, Keith was such a great guy. You know, he's always up for a laugh. He's always happy and smiley. You know, I can't ever remember him being in a bad mood all the times. You know when he's coming to the Milk Cups with her and all the rest of it. Obviously, Keith was from a bit more of your area, wasn't he, Andy? The Middlesbrough area, where Ron was the Chester Street in the middle, and Peter was further north at Wallsend, closer to me. You know, and then probably take me dad out of it, which is the biggest influence on me career. I think secondly was and still is Dave Geddes. You know, I've got a lot to thank Dave for right the way through my YTS days, and and then getting promoted into the first team, and even now, Dave's a really good friend of the family and us, and we've spent a lot of time with Dave and Christine, his wife, when we were in Durham when I was at Hartlepool. So like I said, take away obviously my dad, but certainly from a football point of view, Dave Geddes has been a massive help and support and a huge influence on my career.
Great shout that, because you know what, I think sometimes that you see a coach and a manager, because Ron was great, and Keith and Peter Kirkley and Kenny Wharton and all those guys who brought us and got us the contracts and got the ground in. A lot of people didn't like Dave in terms of he picked the team. So if he didn't pick, it's like any manager. You don't like your manager, he doesn't play. But when you love your manager when he plays you, and you know what I mean. Dave was hard on me, but I really respected that, and I only respected that probably when I started playing in the first team, and when I started to probably want to move to Cardiff, because somebody being tough on you is because they want the best from you. They see something in you instead of just not taking any notice of you, which is 10 times worse. It's just, I mean, I total respect, you know what I mean? And every time I see him, it's absolutely fantastic, and just mutual respect. I can't thank him enough, everything he did for my career. So I'll second what you said. It was amazing. Yeah,
it was, and like I said, I still speak to him quite, not so much recently, but because obviously when I moved back up to Durham, and I was very, very fortunate to spend some, grown up time, and speak to Dave about coaching, I'd been through the coach system, and got my pro license, spent 8 years getting it, and being a manager, and we it wasn't just this moody 16, 17-year-old that didn't used to like your coach because he didn't pick you. It was a man's conversation about football and the ins and outs of football.
Yeah, and I like that. And it doesn't happen enough, though, does it? Because at the time, you think you're having a grown-up conversation with the coach, and you're just talking rubbish because you just, it's great, you think you know everything, don't you, when you're 16, 17-year-old, and then you get put in your place, and then you realise that you're just the same as everybody else, because you get doing extra jobs, and you get given another pair of boots, and that was just how Dave was. It was great. I remember one story about Dave, which was brilliant. So we were at Essen Park. It was a Friday. Everyone had finished their jobs, and he had a cupboard full of dirty water, full of dirty buckets full of dirty water. One of the jobs wasn't done correctly, so he unlocked his cupboard, got the buckets out, and just poured them down this corridor. And this is like 5 o'clock at night, and I was thinking, oh my god, this is just horrific. I think we were there till like 6:30, 7:15. We had a game the next morning, and then we had the first team game straight after. It was just longest weekends ever, but there's something, you know what I mean? It was just, I didn't get me £37.50 till like 7:15 that night. I was just,
in your brown paper
in my brown paper envelope, and I missed my bus, so I had to get a taxi. I think so horrific.
One of the great things I used to love about Dave, and thinking back, and it's a real fond memory, is and you remember Cam, is when he was checking all the jobs, he used to walk about and put his finger like that and go across all the sills of the doors and everything. And we're talking about Ayresome Park was nearly 100 years old. He expected to be gleaming, which was it was dirty at the best of times. So, but absolutely, like you said, them are the memories that and the people, and the really good people that you are very, very fortunate to have in my football career.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
100%. Just before we go to a quick ad, Leslie makes a great point. He says, I was talking to John Hendry, telling him how players used to dropped me home from Hutton Road training ground back in the day, and he said it just wouldn't be allowed these days, which I guess that's another part of the way things have changed over the years. And, I suppose when you look at some isolated incidents across the country with kind of back in the 80s and the 70s with young players and coaches and that, it's right that certain things have changed. But equally, I feel like it's gone too far the other way, and they've taken away a lot of the stuff which made all these fond memories which you two are sharing. Like some of the young players these days, I think it becomes a job so early for them. Like even as like teenagers, it's like they treat it as if they're in the first team to get them prepared for that, which is great. But I feel like they miss out on some of these fond memories of doing jobs together and.
I also think, Sad, there's no relationship between fans and players now. You know what I mean? Craig spoke about it earlier on. You know what I mean? The relationship, Craig, a lot of it, Middlesbrough fans, you know what I mean? Every single game after a game, and Craig knows the fans, I know the fans, because they're always the same people who want your autograph. We've got the same autograph about 1,000 times, but you keep doing it, you have a conversation, and you still see him to this day when I go back, and it's amazing because they took their time, they took their effort to spend the money to get it done. You know what I mean? So it's about respect, and if you know what I mean, the players and fans are like now, they're so distant, it's scary. And if that's social media, if that's clubs wanting the separation, if that's players not parking in car parks, for example, and getting and staying in the hotel the day before a game, it's just I think it's quite sad personally.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's destroying that relationship between fans and players.
I think it's probably all escalated with social media, hasn't it? Players are petrified of being all over social media and newspapers. Probably 15, 20 years ago, and it's one of them things where all you had to worry about was a newspaper, wasn't it? And but now it's with camera phones and so on and so forth. It's that level. It's It can't be a very nice life to live, to be honest.
No, that's great. No, I agree.
I really had a great time. I'd done things probably I would have been in big trouble with now, and certainly you did, Cam. So it's what, but it's I don't think I particularly enjoy. Don't get me wrong. From that side of it, I don't think I particularly enjoy the scrutiny that players are under these days.
No, and on that side, I'll finish with this. Obviously, Craig's time at Middlesbrough. We'll have the break and we'll go on to for when he left to go to Crystal Palace. But one infamous, I think it was a very infamous night. Obviously, Craig played the season that we got promoted back to the Premier League. Paul Merson played that season. Gaza played that season, especially this last game of the season. We beat Oxford United 4-1 in the end. We were 0-0 at half time, and then Alan Armstrong scored 2. I think Higgy scored 1 or 2 as well, and obviously Craig played left back. You know what I mean? And all the young players were envious that Craig was in this team and played with all the stars. You know what I mean? World class players. It was absolutely fantastic. We were so proud of him. And then obviously we celebrated I celebrated like I played every game of the season, dancing on cars, climbing lampposts. It was absolutely amazing. I was living the dream. And you know what I mean? Nobody could get a Kodak and take a photo of me. I was too quick. But it was just, if that was a camera phone, I don't think I'd have ever played football again. It was absolutely scary. But these are memories, and these are good things. Listen, I played hard, but I think I partied even harder.
Yeah, the only thing you had to worry about was CCTV, wasn't it? Really? That was the only thing that
I'll finish off with this one, and this is a good one. So the only time, and if Bakes is still in here, because it was his fault, by the way. So I think we went out one Sunday afternoon, and we had too much to drink. Ended up climbing a lamppost, as you do, and I got called in the gaffer's office on the Monday morning, and the gaffer said, "Did you have a good night last night?" I said, "I didn't go out." He said, "No, you did. I've got CCTV." So he got his video out, his VHS, stick it in his video player, press play, and there's me swinging off a lamppost at like 8 o'clock in the night. I was in the middle of the town centre. I was devastated. He gave me a choice. He said, "I can take the video and I can walk out of his room, never happen again, or he can go and show it to me mum and dad." My dad's probably listening now as well, by the way, so I'm getting myself into trouble here. But yeah, listen, you make mistakes, some more than most, and you get on with it. You just don't do it again. I'm a great climber, by the way. I'm great climber. Like a monkey. I'm like a monkey.
Well. Okay, so we're going to go to a quick ad break. It's not too long, just a quick minute or so, and then we'll be back to finish up the show and talk a bit more about Craig's career.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if mummy or daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so we wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and mummy and daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
Is Charger.
A massive thank you to Bespoke Financial as ever for supporting us and sponsoring the show. They specialise in life insurance and many other financial products, which are very helpful in this current age. And I encourage you to check them out. And as I mentioned, they're giving away a free whale with £140 with all new purchases. I can remember the word then. New purchases at the moment, and I encourage you to give them a call. Like their details, they're at the end of the show and the credits, but also you can get them off myself or Andy. We'll be more than happy to pass them along. Give them a ring and take advantage of what is a phenomenal offer. Okay, Andy, where would you like to begin for the second time? Andy can't hear us, so
I forgot. Come back in.
So what we'll do is I'll take the ship, Craig. But how old were you when you made your Boro debut? Can you hear me, Craig?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right, mate.
Yeah.
How old were you, Craig, when you made your Boro debut?
I think it was 19. I think it was.
Okay. Were you nervous?
Yeah. I was, yeah. But it was Barnet away in the Cup.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Not a lot of people know this, and I don't think I've actually said it. But my dad had just been recovering from an aorta valve replacement, and I wasn't too sure I was going to play or not, and we travelled down and stayed overnight. Obviously, Barnet from Middlesbrough quite a travel, and my dad actually was quite poorly again not long after the operation. He had to go back in the hospital. My mum didn't tell me, and obviously I found out on the way back, and I didn't know that. So fortunately, my dad was okay, and he actually watched my debut against Barnet in the hospital bed. So which is quite strange, really. But it was brilliant. I was very, very fortunate. Like Andy will tell you, some of the guys, some of the players we had, the Nigel Pearsons, the Andy Townsends, the Steve Vickers, the Robbie Mustoes, the Curtis Flemings, the Craig Hignets, John Henrys, all these players, were great professionals as well as role models, as well as sort of good guys as well. Clayton Blackmore were really supportive, and and they supported you. And we played in very good teams. You were talking earlier about the team that got promoted. Goodness me, that team was a great team. I was very, very fortunate to play. I think it was 25, 26 league games that season, and play the last game of the season to be promoted to the Premier League. It was we were lucky with. I think you had to be a good player to get a game, obviously, at that age, and Andy was young. I think Andy was 17, maybe 16. But, you had to be a good player to get in around it. But we had some very good senior professionals that looked after it.
Was that the same game with Barnet game away when Mikkel Beck was getting chased? Was Mikkel Beck getting chased around? He got a penalty second half.
Yes.
Yeah. I was sub that game. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just one of those, and that was one of those awful places to play Underhill, wasn't it? Because the pitch was very, not like the ground they've got set up that now they've got now at the new Hive. It's absolutely amazing. But the ground at Underhill side used to be. When I say on a slope, it was very. It wasn't just on a slope; it was ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Craig obviously playing left back would have been struggling to get the ball out of an area. You know what I mean?
There must have been 10 foot. It must have been 10 foot. It must have been the slope from one corner to the other. Must have been the end of 10 foot.
Ninian Park used to have that weird kind of.
It did, yeah. You couldn't see, yeah. If you were kneeling down where the dugouts are, you wouldn't be able to see the other end. You know what I mean? It wasn't a. Yeah, it was just like a little mini hill, wasn't it? It wasn't like that though. But it's very good. It was. I think it makes pitches different, doesn't it? I remember playing at Port Vale in Vale Park. I only played there in a reserve game, and I've never, as a young player, never got cramp in my life at the time, and I got cramp in after about 60, 70 minutes. I've never ever played on a pitch where it felt and looked so big. It was absolutely scary. But yeah, even grounds what looked big because of stadiums, that pitch was just a ridiculous sized pitch, and I just didn't get it. I just didn't understand how pitches can be different sizes, but. You know what I mean? With someone with pace, you know what I mean? I was hoping to play on a big pitch, but no, I'd rather play on a small pitch to save my legs a little bit. Obviously, Craig, so you spoke about your debut then. So tell us about leaving the club, you know what I mean? Because, you know what I mean, you spent a lot of time as a young player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But things come to an end, don't they? You know what I mean? And you always remember the conversations that you have, why you go, you know what I mean? Obviously, you left on loan to go to Preston, but you came back, and then obviously... You left to go on loan to Crystal Palace, but then obviously left. Yeah. So how did those kind of moves come around?
Yeah, well, obviously, you know, I played quite a substantial part in the Championship promotion yet in the Premier League, and started the following season. I think I played 3 games in the Premier League. You know, then players come in. I think Dean Gordon was one of them. Christian Ziege was another one. You know, you bring in Christian Ziege, a German international from AC Milan. I'm still only 20, 19, 20, maybe 21 at the oldest, and it was. As you know, Andy, you've experienced first team football. You'd worked hard all week, and you've got a goal at the end of the week, a Saturday, and I didn't. You know, it wasn't that I wasn't too good. I wasn't that superstar that I needed. I should be doing that just for my own peace of mind and mental well-being. I needed that. I didn't want to go back to playing in the reserves on a Wednesday night in front of 500-600 people. It was something that I think mentally I would have really struggled with, even though, you know, possibly I left early, and it was me that pushed it. It was me that wanted to go. You know, I asked to go out. You know, in between that, which, you know, Andy knows, but in between that, I had a quite serious illness. I had a burst appendix, which I missed a big chunk of a season, and you know, and the way things happened now, you know, I nearly passed away at one point. It was quite, you know, it was quite touch and go at one point. I was quite seriously ill. And it was coming back from that. I think I'd already played in the first team then. I'd already played in the Championship in the Premier League. And it was after that I'd had a burst appendix. And I think that probably pushed me more than anything else, thinking, you know, I've been very, very fortunate. I've worked so hard to become a professional footballer. I want to be a footballer and I want to play games. So I was only, I think, a year or so into a new 4-year deal with Middlesbrough. You know, and I went to see the manager, Brian Robson. And, you know, and to be fair, he was excellent. You know, you'll be involved with the squad. You know, there's going to be 1 or 2 in front of you, but you'll be no further than third choice in the Premier League squad. In fullback, in cup games, as I played, you're going to get games there, and you're going to be involved all the time. And, you know, I just thought it just wasn't something I wanted to do, probably because of the experience I had earlier, missing almost a season.
I think it's important though, Craig, isn't it, to see that kind of desire in players, you know what I mean? Because now you see players who aren't in the 25-man Premier League squad. You see players who are happy just to play in cup games. You look at some of the FA Cup games over the weekend. You look at Leeds United players who got walloped yesterday against Crawley. The chances of them playing in the Premier League from now to the rest of the season is slim. So those kind of players you want to play, you know what I mean? Money follows you around anyway. You're going to get paid to play football regardless. You know what I mean? So for me, I mean, my moves, same as yours. You've just said it's about wanting to play football, because that carrot at the end of, you know, there's nothing better than a competitive game. I spoke quite freely on here about the Pontins League and you know what I mean? And I'm not a big fan of the under-23 football. Reserve team football was probably better, but still rubbish. You know what I mean? It was. You want to play first team football. You want to play in front of a crowd. You want to play with the best players to have something at the end of a fixture, and the end of a game, and being delighted when you got the 3 points. There's nothing better than coming in after a last minute winner, equaliser, whatever, clean sheet, winning goal. It's just, football's brilliant, but you've got to be at the business end and play and want to play.
Yeah, and it was solely that. It was, I probably, I had 4 years left on a contract in Middlesbrough. Where, funny enough, within probably 6 to 12 months of me leaving, so did Christian Ziege leave, and so did Keith O'Neill, I think, and so I would have been closer to the first team. But at the time, I was just, and it was I wanted to go out to play football. I went on loan originally to Crystal Palace. Who won the championship at the time. I spoke to the chairman there and the manager, and they were having a go. They're signing players like Neil Ruddock, and they took 4 or 5 lads from Arsenal on loan: Stu Taylor, Matty Upson, Tommy Black, Julian Gray, and also the Miguel Fussell, who was on loan from Chelsea, Clinton Morrison, Hayden Mullins, who was an absolute fantastic player. And a good friend of mine, Jamie Smith, who's assistant manager at Doncaster now, and they really did have a good squad, and I went there and I was promised I would play football, and I did, and that was what, it was, I think, one of the best things I'd done. But obviously in the end I got injured playing there, but it was great. The other great thing about it was as well is moving 250 miles away from the northeast to London, and the big bright lights of the big smoke, as they say. It was fantastic. I loved it. I'd never been outside of the northeast apart from playing football in away games. I'd never been down. That was the first time I'd been in London in my life, and it was, and I actually loved it. And if I could have, I would have stayed down there and settled down there. But after I'd finished with the injury, I'd come back up north. But it was all round. It was a really good experience, apart from obviously having to retire. I lived a fantastic life. I loved London, and and you're talking about money, Cam, and I was very, very fortunate when I did go through on permanently. That I think obviously the house prices and everything in London's a lot more, but my wages quadrupled when I went to Crystal Palace, and from a Premier League club to a Championship club.
Which manager took you there?
Alan Smith.
Alan Smith took you there.
Alan Smith was the manager, yeah. Lovely guy, great guy, such a nice guy. I stayed at his house for the first 4 or 5 days. I was down there, and and he couldn't do enough for you, And Simon Jordan was the chairman,
But obviously Alan lost his job though, won't he?
He did. I went through a few managers, to be fair. It was I think the next Steve Kemba, who was a coach there with the youth team, come in for a little bit. Then Steve Bruce for a short period of time. Yeah. Trevor Francis.
I don't know if you remember. Do you remember me walking in the changing room and seeing you there?
No, I don't know.
So
when was that?
So I agreed to sign for Crystal Palace. So I flew up to Gatwick. Simon picked me up. Took me to the training ground. I had my medical. Steve picked me up from the hospital, drove back over, had me talks, blah blah blah. Met Curtis, because obviously Curtis was there.
Yeah.
Jamie was there. Jamie Pollock.
Yeah.
Clinton. So I met Clinton. So I was going to be up front with Clinton. I think the deal was, I think Mikel Forsell was going to go back to Chelsea.
Right.
So I was going to sign there. Agreed a fee, £1 million, and then just about to sign my contract and got the results through that I failed my medical. So Simon booked me back on a flight to Teesside Airport, and that was it. That was it. I was just like whistle stop tour of Crystal Palace, which obviously I'd played under Steve at Sheffield United, and I was going to go to Huddersfield until he left to sign for you guys. So it was I was more or less just following suit, and the only person who the gaffer at Middlesbrough, Brian Robson, was ever going to sell me to, it was going to be his friend Steve. So it was like a deal for a friend, so to speak. But it was a tough plane journey home after failing a medical.
Yeah, I bet it was. Fortunately, things went all right after that.
Things happen for a reason, I believe, and that's what happens, don't they? But you just touched on there, Craig. You said about an injury, obviously the injury. You know what I mean? Very high profile injury, which happened to yourself. So tell the viewers, obviously, if you in your own words, what you went through, obviously during that game, that day.
Yeah,
what happened since?
It was one of them strange things. I was recovering from an injury previously, and it was got back in the squad, in the first team squad with at Crystal Palace, and then we were playing Newcastle. It was actually strange enough. It was 18 years yesterday or the day before to the day 9th of January, that I actually played the game. We played Newcastle United away in the FA Cup. which is quite strange and ironic. That was my last first team involvement. Midweek, I wanted and put myself forward to play in the reserves to get some match fitness to hopefully be in more contention for the week after. And unfortunately, in the reserve game away at Reading, within 20 minutes of the game, it was one of them things. Cam, you know me. I never pulled out of a tackle. I was quite an aggressive person, quite an aggressive player, and I was a senior player on that team at the time. And there was someone going around kicking people, so I thought, no, I'm not having that. I'm going to kick you, which I did. And then the next opportunity came, the ball bounced between the two, and I don't think anyone were anywhere near the ball. Unfortunately, milliseconds, it was me that had the compound fracture of a fib and tib in my left leg. Both my fib and tibia come out the skin. There was lots of blood. There was lots of pain. There was lots of people being sick. And I was very, very fortunate at the time that the lady physio, Claire, done a fantastic job. She got on the pitch. She was very calm. She got me in a splint. She got everything sorted out. And it was one of them things I'd never forget. I forget it till the day I die. That I remember sitting up on my hands and sort of sitting up on my backside and lifting my left leg up, and my ankle was just sort of like swaying in the wind type, just rocking back and forth and thinking. Because I think originally everyone thought the noise was a shin pad being snapped, and it actually wasn't. It was my fib and tib snapping, and and there's a lot of blood in it, and from then on it was just very, very strange one, because it didn't actually hurt an awful lot. Your body must just take over adrenaline, and looks after yourself, and your body just must put itself into shock, and you just get on with it. And it was one of them things, even to the point of the ambulance came, and the ambulance driver, Claire, the physio, had said, look, he's had a compound fracture, his fib and tib, his left leg. We need to get him to hospital ASAP. And because I wasn't making such a fuss of it, the ambulance driver thought, oh, surely it's just a gash. There's a lot of blood, so he's had a gash, and he's got the bandage off, and within like seconds he went, whoa, we need to get ambulance, we need to get hospital as quick as we can. Blue lights on, bang, and gone. And and something similar happened in the A&E in the hospital. I had to sit and waiting about until the physio grabbed a senior member of staff and showed him my leg, and probably within 2 or 3 hours I was having an operation, because that type of injury, it's more so common in motorbike accidents because of the velocity and the impact, and what happens is basically a little bit dramatic, and it would have to go on for a little bit of period of time. But the longer your bone is out the skin and in contact with air, there's an opportunity and a chance that your bone can die, and that means it will not heal, and the inevitable would be amputation. So it was quite an emergency and quick operation as what happened at the time.
How aware were you, Craig, that how serious it was? Did anybody tell you at the time, or did you just know?
I knew it was a bad one. You could always tell by players' reactions, can't you? And everyone. And that was another great job the physio had done. You had every player around going, "Oh, look at that! It's disgusting." Blah blah blah. Look at that! His bone's sticking out. There's blood everywhere. And blah. So you get that, the reaction of players. And and I knew it was a bad one. And did I know? Did I think I wasn't going to play again? I definitely didn't at the time. I remember, I think it might have been the Daily Mirror, and I think it was the next day or so, was in the newspaper saying that I probably wouldn't play again, which was something that turned out to be right in the end, but it's not something you want to read 2 or 3 days after you've had an operation. But not, it wasn't until afterwards, probably 6 to 8 months afterwards. Basically what happened was I'd done my rehab, 6, 8, 9 months, I think it was. I needed plastic surgery on the scar, because the scar was quite bad. They took a skin graft off my right thigh to do my left calf and left shin. And then got back to, I think it was 9 months later, I got back to slow jogging. I was doing about 10, 12 minutes of constant jogging. There was a horrific pain. Going through what I went through, the burst appendix, which was horrific. That pain was 10 times more than what my broken leg was. And so I've got quite a high pain threshold, and I just knew it wasn't right. And I'm not a precious person. I think I'm quite hardy and quite tough. And I went back to the physio and said, look, this isn't right. There's no way. It was like a burning pain on the front of my shin where I just literally, there was tears running down me, not crying, but the uncomfortable pain. There was tears running down my cheeks as I was getting the 12, 13, 14 minutes running. And this was no pace, by the way. It was just a bog standard warm up jogging. Went back for a second opinion, and what had happened was that the main bone had healed. The small bone, which I think, if I'm right, might be the tibia, tibia, whichever was the non-weight bearing one. It healed before the weight bearing one, and in essence, I was running on a broken leg still. I still had an inch gap in the leg, and it was only they'd put a nail down it, a metal rod down it to support it, and it was only that was keeping me from not basically my leg collapsing and running with a broken leg. So I think it was after that second opinion, I had to go in, get the whole operation done again, but I also needed a bone graft off my hip as well, which I think in heart of hearts I probably knew then if I was going to come back with such a complicated injury, it would have to be first time and everything had to run smoothly.
Yeah.
And for that to happen, it was something that, it was something that I'd constantly had in the back of my head without really wanting to think about it. It was something that I thought, and this could be really tricky on this one.
Yeah. One thing I pick up, Si, is how positive Craig is and the good things he says about the club and the physio.
Yeah.
We've had a long conversation on this show about a certain individual at Nottingham Forest who wasn't happy that his career was finished, but with injury, and said that the club didn't do enough, and I think was paid out not so long ago. Listen, injuries are part of the game. They're not a very nice part of the game. You know what I mean? They're the awful part of the game because of these stories. But sometimes they're unavoidable, and you know what I mean. It's people acting how they act at that time. You know what I mean? And in the care people have shown. You know what I mean? I've had some bad injuries, and you know what? I'm close to now the physios who've looked after me with all that love and all that care, because I feel as though I've got to give something back because of what they did to me, and that's how you gain relationships. That's how you gain. It's more than football. It's, you know what I mean. It's pure love. It's pure. I just adore people who went that extra mile for me, because it's brilliant, you know. And I you know what I mean. It was Fry, wasn't it? Who got. I think he sued Nottingham Forest, didn't he, for his injury? And it doesn't sit right with me. You know, I listen to Craig's horror story there about being injured, but you know what I mean. And that physio will have had to go home that night, and Sheila replayed that over and over and over again. Did she do the right thing? Did she act in the right manner? Did she comfort enough? Did she say the right things? And then get up and have to do it again, because that's a job. You know what I mean? And that's the harrowing thing. That's the worrying thing, you know. But that's, people do it because they love for players, not for football, not for money. They do it because they love the lads. You know, I mean, that's what they are. A group of lads who love it, and you know what I mean. Fair play to her. You know what I mean. She sounded like a cracking physio and sounded like a real person who did a great job.
Yeah, no, I was very fortunate at the time that I had someone who dealt with it really well, because it could have been a lot worse than what it was. Fortunately, you know, I can still be involved. I still join in the rondos and so on and so forth, and have a little kickabout when I can, and you know, I can still go out walking and running. And you know, you look at David Boost, who had a very similar injury, but his was 10 years earlier, and obviously surgical advancements and procedures over the 10 years was positive for me. But I know for a fact he still walks with a limp, and his scarring's horrendous. So you know, my injury was very, very similar to that. But you know, I'm very fortunate that, you know, it wasn't particularly the injury. It was the
Smith as well.
Yes, yeah. It was more so the soft tissue injury that probably stopped me. Obviously, the bone will heal in time, you know, but it was because the bone severed the tendon that runs from your big toe to your knee. Then I lost probably 25 to 35% flexion and power in my left ankle, which that was in the end, which I couldn't play at that elite level. You know, which that in itself, you know, I spent the best part of 20 months in rehab and 4 operations, and you know, talk about. I remember that this is another memory that I've got that's really strong, and really, you know, I can remember like it was yesterday, almost being relieved when the surgeon said, Craig, you probably, you know, you're not going to be able to play at that level again. You know, I think you need to retire, and you need to think about something else to do, because it'd been 18, 19, 20 months of getting up in the morning myself, you know, getting into training at 9 o'clock in the morning, leaving at 5 o'clock at night, and probably spending 75 to 80% of that time by myself in the physio room with the physio, getting treatment, you know, and not, you know, it was a lot different back then. You know, it's something that I've really tried my best to do with injured players, to make them feel wanted and relevant. Because then, you know, why would a championship manager who was fighting for his, you know, his job be interested in Craig Harrison, who's not going to be fit for at least 7 to 10 months if I'm going to be fit again? You know, I get that. You know, I get that, but obviously people's well-being, going through that injury myself, you know, and like I said, it was a very strange conversation with the specialist. It was almost a sense of relief that I was told that, Craig, you're just going to have to retire, because the 20 months previous had been living hell. You know, and me and Cam we've kept in touch, and, you know, the back end of my Hartlepool days was tough. You know, it was tough mentally. It was tough getting myself through that. But no matter what anyone did or said or could ever do to me involved with football, couldn't even touch the sides of what I went through and how I got through myself through that 20 months of me getting on with it. So it doesn't matter what anyone says or did. You know, it couldn't even touch the side. So it was one of them that it was like it was water off a duck's back, which is a positive. You know, because if you get into coaching and management, you know, I think it was Lenny Lawrence, Cam, who obviously who you had great connection with at Cardiff, and Lenny said as part of the pro license course that I was on, that you're not a real manager till you've been sacked 3 times.
Yeah, yeah.
Craig, there's a couple of questions from the live chat about your injury, if that's all right.
Yeah, no problem.
A bit earlier on, Donna asked, this was right at the start of the show, she asked if your injury is kind of recovered enough now that you'd be able to play sort of, you know, like fun, like Sunday league games or whatever.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to. Yeah, you know, I've made an excuse for a long time. I've just been lazy, you know, but it's something that recently in lockdown I've done a lot of walking and started running again and looking after myself a bit better. So I'm hoping that can, you know, when we're all out of this, I can get involved with over 40s football and vets football again. And it's you know, I didn't have the dynamism as what Andy did, but I could just sit there and play. I wouldn't be moving very far. But it's that, you know, I really want to get back involved with the whole thing. And like I said earlier, you know, I love when there's a man down in training and I need to join in for a passing drill, or I need to join in for a rondo, or whatever it may be. It's you know, it still gets your juices flowing, and I still don't want to get beaten any of it.
Well, on Craig's comment there, Sykes, you know, I mean, Craig sent me a picture of how much weight he'd lost. You know what I mean? How fit he'd got, how healthy he'd got. You know what I mean? Not so long ago, probably about a month ago, and unbelievable, absolutely scary amount of, you know what I mean, of weight he's lost and how healthy he looks. And you know what I mean? You know yourself, don't you? Because you feel healthy, you feel good about yourself, and you want to continue, don't you? Doing all the walking and doing stuff and joining in training. It just gives you a lot more energy. And then when you've got kids and things, it just makes you feel better about yourself, and just keep it up, mate, because whatever you're doing is working for you. And you know what I mean? Being able and being healthy is just the main thing at the minute, especially with what you've been through in your life and in your football career, especially.
It was.
Leslie asked, would that injury today finish a player's career, or is it like more advanced now? Because he said obviously years ago there was injuries which finished people's careers which don't now.
I understand completely. You know, because as I just alluded to earlier, I think obviously David Boost received an injury pretty similar to mine 10 years previous. I think it was to when I'd done mine. So it's I think they would have a stronger chance, you know, because obviously, you know, medical science has moved on quite a bit. You know, the procedures have moved on quite a bit. It's one of them things that I would like to think it would, but I think it's just individually. Like I said, I was very, very unfortunate that it wasn't the actual breaking of the leg. It was the soft tissue damage that, you know, no doubt if I had wanted to, I could have probably went on and played at a semi-professional or lower level in some way, shape, or form. But at the time, I chose not to. It was after the sort of the high, if you like, of being put out of my misery, of being told I don't have to rehab every day for the next God knows how long. Then within probably 4 to 6 weeks, there was a massive low and dark depression set in quite quickly. When the realism of that, your boyhood dream, and like I said earlier as well, that there's such a small percentage of people getting a position of myself or like Cams does, and to have that taken away for no fault of my own, then it's really tough, and it took me years to get over it. It probably only took me until probably 18 months or 2 years ago that I actually realised that I'd had to go and speak to a professional counsellor about it, because I was still carrying it in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, Matthew Angel sort of asked a question which you've basically just answered. He said, how did the injury and having to retire affect your mental health and your well-being? Obviously, you've kind of answered that just there, but also you alluded to earlier that you were very angry when you came out of the game. How did you deal with that going forward?
Not very well at the time, to be honest. I must have been an absolute nightmare to live with. And subsequently, that ended a long-term relationship with a past partner. I closed myself off to parents and sister. I remember on more than one occasion on a Christmas, sitting at home by myself, eating beans on toast for my Christmas dinner and not opening the door, answering my telephone, anybody. I had a little bit of a spell before that where I went out drinking too much and had a good time, and and then the lows from the highs was horrific. It was, I didn't have an awful lot of support from the PFA. I didn't have support from a club doctor that I'd left. I didn't have support from any of the streams that, the main charity who at this moment in time play a real, they're a sponsor of CONNAHS QUAY Nomads at this moment in time, and one of the coaches is doing a fantastic job on Twitter, doing 150 miles running over in January in sponsorship for, the main charities. I just got on with it. I got on with it, and it was tough. And I was very, very fortunate that I had good family and friends around us at the time, because I look back at what I could have ended up doing, end up having drink problems, having drug problems, having, gambling problems, having debt problems. I was very, very fortunate that, I'd invested my money reasonably well that I'd made at that time. I'm not a drinker, I'm not a gambler, and I think I just love football again. But for 2-3 years afterwards, I couldn't even watch a game. I wouldn't talk about football. I'd cut myself off from all my football friends because I didn't want to talk about football. It was one of them things that, now, there's lots and lots and lots of, avenues you can go down for support. But it was one of them things that you just got on with it. And like I said, fortunately, me mum, my dad, my sister, and friends, and my current partner Danielle, who I met after that. If I hadn't have been for them, then I certainly wouldn't have been where I am today.
Which is great, though, Craig. You know what I mean? I see how close you are to your family. You know what I mean? I've seen met your sister through social media, and I've had a few conversations about stuff and about you. You know what I mean? Making sure you were all right back in the day and stuff. And it's great, though, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because family plays a huge part in people's lives, and I think sometimes you don't always realise yourself, do you, until you really need them and you really rely on. You know what I mean? You take them for granted sometimes, but then sometimes you don't realise how lucky you are at times that you've got those mechanisms to support and help you get through these tough times.
No, without a doubt, like I said, there's no shadow of a doubt. If it hadn't been for me mum, my dad, my sister, friends, and like I said, and meeting my current partner Danielle, got a lovely little girl now, and I couldn't be any happier. And I'm very, very lucky. I met Danielle at the time I did, and and that has been a huge bonus from, you talk about, yes, it was horrific what I went through, and it was every boy's dream to be a professional footballer, Premier League football, that's taken away from you. But sometimes there's the bigger picture and the better good, because I wouldn't be I wouldn't be where I was now and who I'm with now and what I'm doing now if that hadn't happened to me without a shadow of a doubt.
Totally agree. Not so little girl, by the way. She's not so little.
Yeah,
so
nah, she's,
not so little.
I'm very, very
Not so
lucky.
little.
I'm very,
not so little.
She's my life.
I'd like to touch on, obviously, you know what I mean? I know we're running over a little bit. I'd like to touch on management, Craig, because management, obviously, you said at the start, management overplaying, because management, you've had so many successes. It's absolutely scary. You know what I mean? The most coveted manager in Welsh Premier League history. The amount of trophies you've won, League Cups, FA Cups, the equivalent in Wales. Obviously, success follows you around because you left TNS as a league winner. You then obviously joined a club who subsequently won the league straight away, which tells a bigger story to me personally and to everybody else. But what's the story behind success? What's the story behind Craig Harrison's success?
I think it's just, it's hard work, drive, desire. The thing that drives me on and still drives me on now is I think also as well is the sense of injustice of me having to finish my career through no fault of my own, a 24 to 26-year-old, and then that drive every day. I can honestly say now that makes me want to get up and be involved and be the most successful person I could be in football. Still now, I've been involved as manager, coach for 10 years now. And even now, for the last 18 months, 2 years, I've been assistant manager, which is a different job completely. But I've still got the same drive to try and make Connahs Quay Nomads the best club they can be, to support the manager who's doing a fantastic job. I'm very fortunate. I've got great staff. Andy Morrison, which a lot of people know on the show, was captain of Man City. We're very similar in the same way, as in what we believe in: hard work, attention to detail. Believe if you do the right thing, you will get your just desserts. All them things we're very, very similar in their manners, and leaving no stone unturned, as they say, preparation and giving everything you've got every single day and every single time you turn up for a training session, whether that be doing a five-a-side with the lads, whether that be doing team shape, whether that being from assistant's role, is just assisting the manager, just doing what you can to assist the manager. It might not be an awful lot at that time, but I love it, and I'm do everything I can with the utmost enthusiasm and the utmost standards of doing it the best I can. And I always have done. First in, last away as a manager with TNS, and I was very, very fortunate. I think you missed one out there though. It's a world record there, Cam. I think.
Yeah, I'm going to mention that in a minute. I was going to talk about that separately. One thing you picked. One thing I will say. Imagine being a player side at Connahs Quay. You've got Craig Harrison, Premier League footballer. Played at a young age. You've got Andy Morrison, absolutely lethal defender. He was probably one of the toughest opponents I think I played against. I'm talking more probably attitude over ability. Never say die attitude. Wore his heart in his sleeve. He wore that captain's armband with pure pride and determination. He was just a born winner, and just someone that you would love to not see on the team sheet when the manager's coming in from his 2:00 team talk and stuff. But no, it must be amazing. But yeah, you just mentioned it there, something that obviously we spoke about, me and Si. World record holder. Tell us about that, because not everyone's a world record holder. You know what I mean? There's two people on this on the show, but one of us are. So which one is it?
Yeah, it was. It was something that, don't get me wrong. It's a little bit different, but I was very, very fortunate with TNS to win 27 straight games. We took I think it was Ajax who had the record before with 25. I think it might have been. And I think it was the 2016-2017 season. I think it was a year before I left to go to Hartlepool. And yeah, it was, we just went on a massively, unbelievable run, and we just kept winning and winning and winning. I think we got to about 20 games winning, and I think someone mentioned it there, because I didn't have a clue about it.
Yeah, when did you hear about it? When did you hear it was possible?
I think it was 20 games, because the Ajax record was 25. So I think if someone mentioned it, that you do realise you only need to win another 5 games to go level with Ajax and winning the most top level games, as in the top level league you're playing in. You
So
know,
what were those 5 games like then? What was the first game like? Did it feel as though there was more pressure on it to win?
Yeah, I think it did a little bit. Yeah, it did a little. I was very, very fortunate. You know, I had very, very good players. You know, fantastic players. So you know, I can't take most of the adulation and the credit myself. You know, that has to go to the players, and we had a fantastic group of players. You know, so it was something that it was. You know, we were very, very fortunate. We'd won a lot of trophies in the 5 years I'd been there previously. So we had a really good winning mentality. So there was a little bit more pressure, and I think when it comes to the 25th game and you've equalled it, and then to surpass it, then I think that's when there's a little bit of pressure. And when we actually broke the record, it was away to Kevin Druids, and I think it never got celebrated as much as what it should have done because me being me, we were still in the middle of a season and we hadn't won anything. So well done, lads. A few high fives. But by the way, we need to get back at it on Monday morning. And, you know, and once we win the league and once we win a trophy and once we win another trophy, because we're on the back of a double treble. We'd won the League Cup and the FA Cup 2 years in a row previous to that. And it was only getting beaten the Welsh Cup final to make it a treble, which had obviously never been done either. So, but we hadn't won anything. So it was like, yeah, well done, lads, you know, but you do realise Monday morning we'll be going through the same routine. And when it comes to the end of the season, and we never really celebrated it as much as what we probably should have. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, don't get me wrong, it wasn't the same feat as Ajax would have done, you know, European giants, you know, playing against some big teams. But, you know, everything's all relative, and we're playing in the domestic Premier League of Wales, the flagship league of Welsh football, and you know, I can't see it being done again by anybody.
Yeah, well, I just want to ask that there. Competitive football, isn't it? You know, I mean, I looked at Ajax. Was it yesterday they played PSV, and I think they were 2-0 down after 5-6 minutes. You know what I mean? That this is how difficult football is. You know what I mean? You're seeing how competitive your league is now currently. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's teams bringing in marquee players. There's players dropping down levels. There's players wanting to play local. There's teams getting better. There's European football to play for. There's, you know what I mean? There's weather to contend with. There's different pitches. Listen, there's loads of factors which could go against you on any given day. Then there's the odd refereeing decision, the odd mistake by an official, the odd mistake by a player, and all that hard work for 24 games could go out the window. You know, it's just it's so. I mean, it's such an achievement, and you know what I mean. Should be absolutely massively proud of it because, like you say, you know what I mean. It's going to take, if it is beaten, it's going to take some achievement to beat it, and if it does, then it's some amazing feat, isn't it? Because records are there to be broken, records are there to be shot down at, but you know what I mean. There's a lot of hard work what goes into the start and the end point of that.
Yeah, I think that's why, you know, when you asked us earlier on playing or managing, I think, you know, that's probably, you know, I've been very, very fortunate through my managing coaching career. I said about it earlier. You know, I've been a manager in 14 Champions League games. You know, I've been assistant manager in 4 Champions League games. I've been assistant manager in another 6 Europa League games. You know, it's been amazing. I've been involved with the world record breaking team. You know, I've as a manager, I've won 18 trophies with one team, and now at CONNAHS QUAY, we've won 2 trophies in the last 2 years when I've been involved with it. You know, obviously, you know that we all talk about these good times. Hartlepool was a bit of a a kick in the teeth, if you like, but you know, it is one of them things that, you know, I had my hands tied behind my back a lot of the time with things going off the field, but you know, all them things. And by the way, that the year I spent at Hartlepool probably learned as much as what I had in the previous 5 or 6 years of being manager, because you don't always learn from winning games. You learn from being tough times and not making the same mistake again. And you know, and the strange bit about it is that I'm a better person, I'm a better coach, I'm a better manager than what I was before I went to Hartlepool. And I had quite a high profile from the Welsh system with TNS, with winning lots of things and breaking records, you know. But without a shadow of a doubt, now I'm better from my experience with Hartlepool, because you know there was some bad experiences, or some not so good experiences. Don't have to be that, you know, it's valuable experiences. So.
Well, that's a great way to finish our chat, Craig, because obviously that answers a lot of people's questions, and I didn't want to ignore the fact. You know what I mean? I'm not going to hide behind it. 'Cause I know how proud you are that you took the opportunity. I know how proud you are that you give it a go. And not everything went for you. Well, hardly anything went for you. You know what I mean? You were very successful the first month. I'm sure you got manager in the month for the first month or two of the season.
It started off. I started pretty poorly. Then I think we went 12 games unbeaten. I think we won 9 of them, and I got manager of the month in November time, and and then there's no coincidence that the owner decided he was going to take his money out, and players were told the following week that they might not get paid on the following payday, and then it sort of all. It sort of fell apart from there. Obviously, I made mistakes myself. I would never dodge that one. Without a shadow of a doubt, made mistakes. But it all coincides with as and as any walk of life and any job. If you're told you don't know whether you're going to get paid at the end of your month, your salary, and at that level, you're not talking about £1,000 a week. You're not talking about people who've got savings. You're talking about players that are getting hundreds of pounds a week and living from month to month. And also, from my point of view, moving my family 160 miles away from northwest of Chester and then into Durham and going through that as well. So, that was the downside to it. But, you live and learn. And, I don't regret it. I don't regret one bit. There's only one thing I regret is that, putting my family through some of the stuff they went through, But apart from that, it was something that it was invaluable in my coaching journey and managing journey without a shadow of a doubt. I will definitely learn from that and be a better coach manager through it.
Yeah. Right, we're going to finish off, Craig. There's going to be I'm going to pick 3 random questions. So massive apologies if I don't pick the questions that there's somebody we've had absolutely tons. We've had loads, and thank you very much for the questions. One I picked out. So obviously, Mikel Beck sorting out this amazing opportunity, this amazing game at the Riverside for the NHS workers and trying to raise some money. Will Craig Harrison be making an appearance on the hallowed turf at the Riverside?
Yes, 100%.
Great answer. You know what I mean? When I first heard about this, we're going to... Mikel and Jan have both agreed to come on the show. We've decided to save it a little bit closer to the time so we can try and sell the game to people. Not that it needs selling, by the way. I mean, just another advertiser. I mean, promote it and get some people drumming in, because do you know what? The idea they brought to the table is just absolutely fantastic. And Dave Roberts as well, by the way. I don't want to ignore Dave. Yeah. Dave's a good friend of mine, and he's done some great work. Done some great work for Red Army TV, and the passion he's got for the area of Middlesbrough and the North East is second to none. Is absolutely brilliant, and great to hear that you're going to be involved, because it's a big thing, Craig, isn't it, for people in the local area to reminisce about good times.
Yeah, you look at it, and we were very, very lucky. I think you only look back, don't you, now, and realise, the era we went through. To have a manager of Brian Robson's ilk, a boyhood hero of mine, play with Paul Gascoigne, Paul Ince, Ravanelli, Juninho, Emerson, Paul Merson, who was so underrated. What a player he was, Andy Townsend, and all the fantastic professionals we played with, Mark Schwarzer, Nigel Pearson, Curtis Fleming, Robbie Musto, Steve Vickers, Derek White, Alan Moore. It goes on and on and on. I think we only realise now, well, I certainly do, when you look at the list of players in the squad and the players we played with that got promoted in that team, very, 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 very fortunate. And I can't wait for it. And I hope it happens sooner rather than later once all this is done.
Totally agree. So that was a question about playing. I'm going to think one about managing. There's been a question. I'm not sure I've missed something here, by the way. So apologies if he hasn't been given the sack today. But would you take the Cardiff City job? I don't think he's been sacked, by the way.
You obviously realise, Cam, we're close. We speak quite regular, and it's something that really. I'm not done completely. I love my job at this moment in time. I love working with CONNAHS QUAY. I love working with Andy. I love working with MJ, and I love working with the players. And we've done something really special by breaking the monopoly of TNS for the last 8-9 years. And we've had some great wins in Europa League and in Champions League football, but it's certainly something at 43 years old that I'm certainly not done with. When I do get the opportunity and the right one comes along, then I'll be better than I was before, and I'll grasp it with two hands and I'll move forward. But at this moment in time, like I said, it is something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy getting on the grass with the lads. I enjoy the different relationship because, as you know, coaches and assistants have got a lot different relationships with players than what the manager has. At the end of the day, the manager, picks a team and he's got to be a bit more distant, and and your coaches and assistant managers can have a good relationship with players, not a better relationship or a closer relationship. But yeah, it's certainly something that I am missing a little bit. But at this moment in time, I really enjoy what I'm doing. But like I said, without a shadow of a doubt, there'll be another opportunity for me around the corner at some point, and I'll take full advantage of it.
Great show. And finally, last question. I'm gonna steal people's thunder. Last question. If Craig Harrison had to pick one moment out of his career that's football and management, which is the best highlight of his career?
Just the one.
Yeah,
please.
just one.
Can I have
just one?
Can I have one playing and one manager?
Si, what do you reckon? Can we? Yeah, go on. We'll give you it. Since you've given us loads of time, we'll give you it.
Yeah, the playing one is obviously got to be being Premier League debut against Leeds United. It was fantastic. It was like you said, it's a dream for any young boy to play in the Premier League.
Who did you mark out the game that day?
It was a 0-0 ball draw. I'm sure
not for you. It wasn't, no.
Yeah, it wasn't. I was pleased. Harry Q played and
Harry Q, Gary Kelly.
Yeah, and Dave Hopkin as well was playing a little bit cocked on the right. So it was a fantastic experience, and I think as a manager, it's being it's standing there listening to Champions League music when you've been standing there being the manager of a football club and knowing that you're in charge of this team right here, right now.
I love listening to that on the TV side, so never mind listening to it stood on the side. That must be even better. It's just that's just quality. I might just play it tonight just to make me feel better. Craig, personally, for me, mate, I hope everything works out. You've been a cracking guest. Some of the comments, by the way, have been absolutely phenomenal. The people who've watched the show, the numbers that we're getting are just... Si blew my mind last night with the numbers, so please continue to watch and keep giving us feedback. Keep telling us what you want us to do, because it's... This is a doddle, by the way, talking to people who I enjoy talking to. It's absolutely amazing.
Brilliant. Not a problem. Like I said as well, I just, on social media as well, I'm a big advocate of mental health and, the things I went through. Anyone wants to follow me on my Twitter, on my Instagram, I've got an open box for anybody. So if they need to have a chat, need to go through a tough time, obviously lockdown is tough for everybody, but if I do you know your handle, Craig? Do you know your Twitter handle if people want to follow you? Give us loads of numbers in it. Give us a second, and I'm actually just on it now. So yes, it is Craig HA 02531746. There we go. So it's Craig HA 02531746. It's got a beautiful picture of a beautiful man on it. Looking a lot trimmer than what I have done. So it's a really tough time for everybody. But certainly, it's whatever I can do, whatever support I can give anybody. It's open, and I just want everyone to stay safe and keep plodding on, and keep. We'll get there soon. Great way to finish, mate. I couldn't have put it better myself. Si says it week in, week out, mate. So I'm really pleased that you've said that without stole my thunder. Sorry, Si. Sorry, Si. I've spoke too long, haven't I? You've not got the word in edgeways. That suited me today, mate, because I'm still recovering. So I was quite happy listening. I was loving it, listening to you two and exchange stories, and just hearing you talk, Craig, is a real enjoyable show tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving us so much extra time as well. I really appreciate it. Craig, bear in mind, Si's been poorly all week. Si wasn't going to make today's show. Si wasn't going to make today. He was going to set it up. Let us roll with it. So it's nice to have him on. It's nice to have him back to normal. We work really well together. Really enjoy his input. Yeah, it's great. I've watched a lot of the shows previously, and it's brilliant. I enjoy it, and may long it continue.
Top man.
It's a great show. Keep going, boys.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Top man. Cheers, pal.
So, subscribe to the YouTube channel, first and foremost. We'll be back on Friday for the Championship show. We'll be back next Monday with an all-new guest. Danny Batten Friday, so Wednesday. Super Kevin scripted tomorrow. But most importantly, big thank you to Bespoke Financial for sponsoring today's show. As ever, I encourage you to give them a call and check out some of the offers and financial things that they offer. They are offering, if I can get my words out, a free will worth £140 with any new policy, which is taken out at the moment. So check them out, give them a call, and don't miss out on what is a cracking offer. And of course, as ever, a massive thank you to Martin and Black Diamond Sports for all the support around the show. And indeed, we'll be back Friday for the Championship show. And I've got a feeling it's going to be interesting. I'll try not to be angry, although judging by the last couple of Fridays, that's probably not going to happen. Thank you so much to everyone who's commented and everything as well. And also, I apologise because there was a lot of questions which we didn't do tonight. It was just so many of them between the three platforms. And Matthew Angels just said, Andy, do the Ayatollah, because he did ask you as well.
He did. I did read that. Sorry, Matthew.
There we go. Disgraceful. He ignored you.
I didn't. I was scrolling up and down. I read it. I just didn't. Sorry, mate. I really apologise for that.
He's big time in you, mate. It's big time. Right. Thanks very much, Craig. Andy,
No
it's
problem.
a pleasure. And to everyone else, thank you for your time. We'll be back. Make sure you join us.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if Mummy or Daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and Mummy and Daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.